Uncle Dan Parker.
Freedom.
Yeah, great.
I feel like I'm in court.
Do you remember when you enlisted?
I do.
When was that?
October 26th, 1966.
Where were you living at that time?
185th and Baseline. It's in the Lower Reedville area. Hill High. The Spartans.
Wait, where? Sorry. Hill High. Where?
Hill High, Hillsboro. The old Hill High, the one they tore down. Probably never saw it.
What was your name and what branch were you in?
My name?
Yeah.
Dan Parker,
Alright.
and I was in the Air Force.
What was your boot camp experience?
Oh boy. We had 6 weeks of training in boot camp. It was mostly school room stuff and physical. You've seen probably pictures of them running through the obstacle course and stuff like that. Walking and running a lot every day. I could do it back then.
Why did you join?
Well, if I didn't join, I actually was drafted, so I either was going in the Army or where I wanted to go, so I went in the Air Force. Back then, at 19 years and 2 months, you were drafted, unless you were going to college or had some other kind of deferment. I thought the Air Force sounded better than the Army. Good question.
What do you recall from your first days in service?
My first days? Well, I went into the fire department, so I was a firefighter the whole time I was in. Crash and structural.
What did it feel like?
Well, it was patriotic, but no, other than that, it was pretty much just like being at home.
What war were you in?
War? I wasn't in a war. The Vietnam War was going on at the time. I didn't have to go to Vietnam. I spent most all of my time in Columbus, Ohio, at Lock Point Air Force Base. I did take, this is probably way before your time, you may never even heard of it, but the Pueblo, have you heard of the Pueblo, USS Pueblo? North Korea.
What?
Pueblo,
How do you spell that?
P-U-B-E-L-O, I believe.
Okay, alright, thanks.
Okay, North Korea captured that ship, I think about January 26th of '68. I was on a prime beef team that was a bunch of us, there were 66 of us that were on a team that would be called up to go anywhere in the country. We had an hour and 10 minutes to get ready. We kept the bag packed all the time. We were on our way to Korea. I spent 6 months there.
What was your most memorable moment?
Well, I think being in Korea.
Did you leave any loved ones behind?
Did I leave any loved ones behind?
Loved ones. Did you love anybody that you left behind? Who did you love that you left behind?
I don't understand that question.
When you were enlisted, who did you leave behind?
Oh, you mean here at home? Oh, parents, girlfriend, yeah, family.
Do you know what rank you were?
Sergeant.
Did you get any awards or medals?
I did. I can't tell you what all they were. We got some because we went to Korea, so we had some. I forget what they were. They're in a box at home.
How did you stay in touch with your family?
Letters, mostly. Sometimes a phone call. never a phone call from Korea.
Did you get any injuries while you were?
Nothing serious, no.
What was the food like?
Okay. Actually, the food in Korea was good. I stayed there 6 months and then they shipped me back. I tried to extend over there because I actually liked the duty there. It was not so much BS. You know, their food was good. They treated them pretty good. I spent 3 months in Kunsan and then the rest of the time was in Gwangju, and those guys had steak barbecued out at least once a week. It was all tent there, but
Do you have any hysterical moments or funny memories from your time in boot camp?
historical?
Yeah, like
No.
any funny moments that you had, or kind of lighter stories from just hanging out while you were in the service?
I don't remember any.
What'd you do on your free time?
While I was in or in boot camp.
You
Boot camp, we didn't get any free time. They had a day off, it was in December, and it was cold and snowy. We were in San Antonio, Texas, and we could have gone into town. I would have gone in and seen the Alamo, but I didn't want to venture off the base. In Ohio, it was pretty much just like everybody else, like you would be here. It's like a city, the bases are. They have their own people doing everything. And I work part-time on my days off. I actually didn't move back here until 2007. That's when I met Hannah.
Do you remember the day your service ended?
Uh-huh.
What day was that?
October 25th. I actually got out 2 days early because it was on a weekend,
What year?
1970.
How did you feel when you got out of the service?
I was happy.
What'd you do when you got home?
When I got out, when I got home, there in Ohio, it was just another day, you know, you just went to work somewhere else.
Where'd you work?
I worked for a store called Lazarus, which would be kind of like Macy's. I installed window treatments for them, and I worked in every department they had as an extra. I sold insurance for a little bit, and I did window treatments. Then I started my own business doing that, and I was on the Columbus Fire Department. About a year after I got out, I got on the Columbus Fire Department. I spent 28 years there, so I got 32 years of firefighting experience.
Are there any big differences in between fighting a military fire versus a civilian fire in Columbus?
Yes, yeah. I felt like I was trained well for crash firefighting, but after I got on the department, had training for structural, it was a big difference. Fighting fire is different. If you come in a room like this and the fire is going, you don't see anything. Just smoke. Not even your hand in front of you. When it's bad. I mean, there's times you can come in and it's gray and you can walk around and do stuff, but when it's really going, it's all involved in black, you don't see anything. You're crawling on your hands and knees.
Was there something special you did for good luck?
Oh.
Did you feel any pressure or stress when you were there?
I'm sorry?
Did you feel any pressure or stress when you were in service?
In the service? I don't think so.
And then, when you said that you were a firefighter in the military, and as a rank of sergeant, did you have a crew that you watched over?
Pretty much all the time, yeah. And I actually drove in as a crew chief. They were shorthanded. We would have you ever seen a crash fire truck?
I have not.
They're big. The one that I was on was a new one. We had 3 or 4 old ones that I also was on, but the newest one was called a P2. I think they still use that style of truck today. It has 2,000 gallons of water on it and 200 gallons of foam. Big turret on the top, small one on the bottom, and hand lines that come off the side that you can go in on. And they'll knock down a fire in an airplane real quick. Most of those fires are outside. You're just you're trying to put it out around the ground and stuff. Different than fighting a fire in a house. It is hot. Hotter than in the house. And that's why you see them wearing those silver suits with the hoods. If you don't have one of those on, you're not going to get within probably here to your teacher.
Oh, wow.
Because it's aviation fuel.
Yes, JP4 burns really hot.
Do you know how many crashes you had to take care of? Or
I never had to.
Oh, really?
No. Never had a fire in the Air Force. All my fires were in Columbus. We did lots of other stuff besides fighting fire. You know, there's preventative work and inspections and stuff like that. Fuel spills. I never really actually had a fire. Surprising, huh?
And then, you said that, was there any difference in the amount of people that the new truck would have versus the older ones?
No, they usually had 3 or 4 people.
3 or 4?
Yeah. I had one that was a foam wagon. We just had 2. Just a tractor trailer, like a fuel truck that was set up with foam and a big bar in the back that you could foam the runway down with.
Did you make any friends when you
Yes,
Do you remember their names?
I do. I have a friend today that I met in the Air Force. We have maintained, when I was in Columbus, we'd go see each other a couple times a year. Out here it's a little tougher. He lives in Kentucky. And I talk to him a lot. Sometimes I'll talk 2 or 3 times a week, sometimes once. But for a long time, you know, it's just all hashing out stuff you used to do. Very close friend. I remember them all, but this is the one I've stayed in touch with.
Do you have any stories from the Air Force?
I don't think so.
What was your friend's name?
Ken Crawford.
Was he a firefighter too? In the
He
military?
was.
Oh,
He
okay.
was. We actually worked on our off days together from the
Oh, okay.
Air Force. We both worked at Lazarus. As a matter of fact, we spent almost every day together.
Oh, really?
When we were off, yeah, we would do stuff together with our
Oh.
wives. Yeah. Special friendship.
If you were able to go back in time and go do it all again, would you?
I think so.
Would you change anything?
I don't know what I could change.
Did you have any memorable or significant moments in the Air Force or as a firefighter?
Well, as a firefighter, I had several, but I don't remember too much about the Air Force because we were just there. Nothing really happened. Other than in Korea, you know, that was kind of dramatic, but nothing seriously happened where I was at. Yeah, well, I told you we took an hour and 10 minutes to get on a plane and we were off. We landed from Columbus, we landed in Elmendorf, Alaska for breakfast, then flew to Japan. And this is all top secret, we weren't supposed to know where we were going. Imagine that. I'd figured it out, but wasn't hard when you knew your ship had been captured. But we landed in Suwon, Korea. We went to Japan and then we landed in Suwon, Korea. And the word that came back to us from our lieutenant, who was the only person on the plane with a gun, he had a .45 pistol. We were landing, they didn't know what was down there. They were shutting off the 2 right engines. We had to unload the plane on that side and then they were gonna leave. I'm going, what? We did it, and then the funny saw Jeeps coming out with their own MPs on it, so that felt good. But there's a little tense moment there, I think, for a while.
So they landed, shut off one side so you could get out,
Yeah.
fired it back up and left?
Yes, they did. We spent just a couple hours at that base. They took us to a Quonset hut. We had sea rations, and they brought a 130 in and took us down to Kunsan from there. I spent 3 months there and 3 months at Gwangju. And what I see on TV now, those cities look nothing like they did when I was there.
Do you ever feel like you're gonna have to come home so often Vietnam? Was there that nagging stress at all or worry?
I'm sorry?
Were you ever worried that you were gonna have to go to Vietnam?
Not terrible. I think you're concerned about it, but it didn't happen for me. I knew people that went.
Did they make it back?
Yes. Actually, my best friend did not. Though from Sunset High School. His name was Glenn Simmons. Excuse me. He was in the Marines, a bridge company. And there was a dog park, and they didn't want the Viet Cong to know where they were at, and they sent somebody out to kill the dog, and the dog jumped on him. Glenn threw a stick at him, and the dog came back and jumped on him, bit him in the wrist. He broke his neck, but he got rabies.
Now that you're back and living in the area, have you gone back to Hillsborough to see the area where your high school used to be? Or have you found any of the people that you went to school with now that
Yes.
you're back here?
Actually, every time I came home at least once a year, sometimes twice. Every time I came home, I went to the high school. Would walk around at the old high school. I don't know if you knew where it was at 6th and Lincoln. The new high school is over by Good Bridge somewhere, but the old high school, matter of fact, I came back when sometimes I'd go see my coach even though he was at Glencoe. I would go over and talk to him, and then after I came back here, I saw him again and helped him with the track meet in Hillsborough. Ellen Keller, I don't know if you've heard of him or not. He's not around anymore. Did you know him?
I know the name, I know he had a son or grandson named Scott.
Eldon. Does he have a son named Scott? I think he might.
I know that is. We were in college same time, but.
Yeah, I think I knew the other one better. Does he have an older brother?
I don't know, I asked, Scott, I think, is a basketball coach.
I think he did have one
Century
named
or
Scott,
something.
but, I was gone so long. And then, so we would always come back. And then after I moved back here, I got in touch with some guys and we were having dinner once a week on Friday, every other week on Fridays at Hillsborough. played golf with him.
And then was it nice to move back here and then get to meet other relatives?
Yeah, I can remember when I first met Hannah. They bought the big house over here, and I was working for Bruce at the time. Good kids. I'm very proud of them.
Has Oregon changed very much?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm back here because of my family, because taxes cost too much for me to be back here. It cost me about $4,000 a year just to live here. In extra tax that I have to pay for state, I gotta pay it on my pension from Ohio. I gotta pay it, because I live here, I still gotta pay my state tax. But it is beautiful.
So you said that he was your coach. Did you play any, what sports did you play in high school?
Cross country and track,
Oh, okay.
What'd you do in track?
mile. 2 mile if he got mad at me.
What was your fastest time?
You know, in track, my fastest time was 5 minutes. I did it my sophomore year.
Jeez.
I didn't run track after that. No, I really did. I ran cross country in my junior year. I had a motorcycle accident,
Oh, wow.
so I didn't continue with track after that. Broke my leg.
Okay.
I think I'd have done very good.
5-minute mile.
Jeez.
Shane would be happy to hear that.
Let's see, right?
He runs track too. He does, I think, what does he do, the 400 or whatever, or something like that?
I think my senior year I would have done better. I would like to have seen me do 4:30 or so. I don't know if I could have done better. Just in it.
That's extremely fast.
I just don't know. I was good.
So I guess,
I think I would have been the state champion cross country possibly had I kept running. The 2 guys that came in first and second were from Hill High. They never beat me. But I guess I kind of lost interest when I broke my leg, and then I got a car, and that became more important than track and cross country. I probably should have stayed with the track. Probably should have stayed with the sports, but you know, back then that car is pretty important. You guys know how that is.
You know, when you got out of the service, and that was pretty tumultuous times in this country.
Yes, it was.
Did you get any ill treatment based on your service?
I did not, but I wasn't around like, I had friends that did. I don't know why, but they would come back home like at the Portland airport, and they'd have people spitting on them and yelling and screaming at them and stuff. I never had to go through that. I did fly military standby when I came home when I was in the Air Force, and I never experienced any of that either. But I heard they were hanging out at the airport doing that, and one of my good friends got spit. I couldn't have took it. I'd have probably been thumping on them, but I guess they were told they could.
Thankfully, our nation has changed their outlook on veterans now.
Yeah. Can I give you a little story about my dad?
Yeah.
Of course.
He was in the Navy during the war.
What was his name?
Walter Parker. He was in the Navy, drafted in the Navy from Florida. I don't know if Hannah knows this. He was on his way, they picked up a special transport boat from Mississippi. I followed his whole story just a few years ago before he died. He was surprised that I found this out. They picked up a special transport boat from Mississippi and took it to Rhode Island and got trained on it and everything, and were coming back down. And they were pulled into Norfolk because there was a U-boat out there that had been sinking ships. And they kept them in there till they got done. Then they left, and I followed his whole track around and through the Suez Canal, and, not Suez, Panama. And they stopped at San Diego, and they were on their way to Japan. They were out 2 days when the war ended. His ship, he ran a little boat off the ship with carrying men and equipment, was the first, one of the first little boats to hit Japan soil. He was also, his ship brought the first troops back from the war to Portland. And that's where he met my mother.
That's
So
awesome.
they were gonna go to Europe with the U-boat, they turned around and decided to go to Japan instead?
No, I'm sorry. They weren't going to Europe, they were going to Japan. Their training came from the East Coast, and then, interesting how I found this all out was, I was looking through the reunions for Navy people, and saw his ship listed, and the guy that was ahead of it lived about 40 miles from me in Ohio. So I called him, and I went down and got the whole history of their ship and what they did and who were on his boat. I think that would have been interesting, but I think the important thing is he brought the first troops back. They called that, I'll try to think of it. I forget what they called the operation, but they made 2 trips. USS Hampton was his ship, APA 115.
115.
Yeah, there's been 3 other boats called the Hampton.
Oh.
The one currently is a nuclear sub, I think. So very few people know about the one my dad was on. It's been scuttled and everything, so. But an interesting story. I'm trying to think of the name of the operation. I should have come prepared for that, but I didn't. Magic Carpet. Operation Magic Carpet.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you can Google that.
I wanna see what comes up.
You can do the USS Hampton 115. There's actually, the only picture that I know of it is when they're in Astoria, Oregon, coming up the river. And my dad told me they hit the dock when they docked in Portland. As did the other guy that I talked to. Pretty interesting story. Too bad he wasn't here. Did it come up?
Yep.
This gentleman that I talked to in Ohio, I guess they practice all the time how quickly they can get the boats in the water. The ship carried the boats up, somehow strung up, they drop them in and they have to get in them and equipment. They practice that probably daily. When they docked off of Japan, may even tell you where they docked off Japan there. When they docked off there, that was their fastest time getting the boats in the water. They never had a shot fired on them.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, they were expecting it, but they never had a shot, they never were fired on. They got to the beach and the police were waiting on them and escorted them into town.
Is there anything that you would like any more movie, not movies, stories that you want to tell us?
I can't think of anything that's special.
Do you have any advice to us as teenagers who, from your generation to our generation, advice that you think that we should follow as we go on to continue in our lives?
Wow, that's a good question. Really deep. Advice to follow. I don't know that I'm the person to get that from, but, you know, you don't get to redo it. It's not a rehearsal. Just make the best decisions you can, and you'll turn out just fine.
I have a question. So you said you went to Korea, so because the ship was captured.
Yes.
So what happened with that? Did you guys take it back, or did
Well,
you guys
no.
save the people? Or?
Actually, I think North Korea still has it.
Oh, really?
I think they do. It's the only ship that's ever been captured and remained in other people's hands. You can
I'll look it up.
Google the Pueblo, and I think it may tell you that. You can Google prime beef if you want to, and maybe you'll find some stuff on that. United States Air Force prime beef was the actual talks about the stuff. I tried to do it last night. I didn't get up the stuff I wanted. I'm sorry, your question was?
If like what you guys did to help,
Oh,
like why you guys went there.
well, fortunately for me, that base was short on firefighters. And there were 10 of us, and we got to go fight fire and do the 1 day on, 1 day off, and do all the firefighting stuff. The rest of the guys were all help putting up tents.
Yeah, it says that they still have that one ship. Sorry, I was
Yeah.
looking at it.
That's all right, I thought I saw that too. They put up tents for the Army to come in, that's what they did. Actually, the first day I got there, when we went from Suwon to Kunsan, we got there at night. We were in their gym, that's where we spent the night on the floor on just a sleeping bag. It was 32 degrees in there,
Oh,
with 4 heaters going. Let me tell you, Korea's cold. It snowed, the first 3 months I was there, it snowed every day, at least half a day, and it was cold, and the wind would blow. I guess I do have some stories. I remember taking a run one day, and a little guy that was on my truck opened the door up, and these doors opened like the old barn doors like this.
suicide.
And it had a big pull at the end to stop them, and a little hole to drop a iron thing down to keep it there. He went to open that door, and the door caught him, and the door stopped, and he kept going.
So, as part of the fire crew, did you guys have to like clear the runway of snow?
No,
No.
no, the only thing we did with the runway, we changed the barriers. They call it a barrier at the end. There's a webbing and like they have kind of like on an aircraft carrier, a little different but similar. They had a cable that would catch their front nose gear and throw a webbing up and try to stop it from running off the end of the runway. When they changed directions of landing, we would have to go out and change that barrier, deactivate one and activate the other one.
Did you ever spend any time on an aircraft carrier?
No, that'd be Navy. I did fly on a firefighting helicopter once from Gwangju to Kunsan to visit my friends down there. It was kind of interesting. Shaky.
So did you kind of have like free range as being a firefighter? Like you guys could kind of do whatever you wanted
Oh, no.
besides do that? Oh, okay.
Oh, no, when we were fighting, when we were on duty, we had to stay at this station and then wax and wash the trucks, clean the house, and go out on fuel spills, aircrafts that were coming in with trouble. We'd go out and stand by for them for protection and also for, what do they call it? When they were carrying sick and injured people. Those planes always got to stand by. So it'd always be one truck out on the runway all the time. And then if emergency or something else came in, the rest of them came out.
Did you guys ever have any fun in the snow?
Fun in the snow.
Like huge snowball fight in between the fire crew?
No, I don't remember that. But I'm gonna tell you, it was so cold out there, you didn't wanna be outside. I mean, we're talking 20 below. It's that way in Columbus, Ohio. My worst fire, we burned a whole block down. A whole block. Was out in it all night, and it was 20 below with a minus 72 chill factor. Ice on everything. Probably had a foot of ice in the street. Don't like fighting fire in the winter. Imagine some of the Portland homes they all have that little hill that comes down to the sidewalk of the street. Can you imagine that being icy and snowy? You're gonna fall down. You're gonna end up on your butt sliding down the hill, so.
A couple more quick things about your father. Is he also from Hillsborough?
No, he was from Woodville, Florida. And he was drafted into the Navy, one of just a couple guys that was drafted into the Navy. He met my mother on that first trip to Portland with the Apache carpet. He met her in Portland. My mother can tell this story better.
Oh, yeah, I've heard it lots.
See if I get close, I'll hit the high spots. It was one day, a Saturday, I think. And then he never saw her, he had her phone number, and he must have called her or wrote her or something in between. And after he got out of the Air Force, he asked her to marry him from Florida. And she went to Florida with her mother to get married.
They barely knew each other?
4 hours.
Oh my God.
Is there
Yeah.
something like 4 hours that she got to see him before she went down to get married, but they wrote letters back and forth all that. What am I forgetting?
Well, what she told me is, once like they'd come in, she would, get all these letters from people, and, she'd be like, oh, well, meet me here, and she said she'd drive by, and if she didn't like what she saw, she'd keep going.
Yeah.
Because they didn't know who she was waiting for, and she said when she saw Papa Parker that she sure did stop, and I was like, wow.
Yeah, but he just met her on the street and asked her to go to a movie.
Yeah.
And she says, no, I just came for the movie, how about going to Youth for Christ with us? And she said, okay, so he did. They were married 60 years.
That's amazing. 4 hours. This must be a record.
They were special.
So it's at least one that would last. That's incredible.
I'm glad they stayed together.
We do thank you for coming in, appreciate it.
I hope I helped out.
We're always happy to talk to veterans.
Thank you.